It is realistic to expect that Penn State affiliated wrestlers will win half of the weight classes at the World Team Trials.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling and the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, and thank you so much for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, the #1 Penn State sports podcast out there. My name is Seyko, and I'm your host of the show going into year 4 with Locked On and credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State Wrestling. The pre-seeds were released for the World Team Trials. We're going to talk about all of it, but first, an overview of what to expect for Penn State affiliated wrestlers. Friendly reminder, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. So we're going over the best hypothetical matchups here, which ones will be the most intriguing, and starting off with why Penn State affiliated wrestlers can take home at least half of the World Team Trial weight classes that are available here that aren't already taken up at Final X. And it would have been more than half if Nick Lee didn't happen to withdraw from for an unknown reason. I mean, he was projected as a #1 pre-seed, but the 4 weight classes that Nittany Lion Wrestling Club members or Penn State affiliated wrestlers, I'm not going to say 65 kilos. Don't think that I'm going to go there, but PJ Duke at 70 kilos. At 79, Levi Haines. At 86, one of Kyle Dake or Carter Starocci. And at 92, Josh Barr. So there are the 4 right there. And if if Nick Lee was entered in at 65, he would have been one of the favorites. So Nittany Lion Wrestling Club could have expected to take home at least half in that case if Lee was there. But it's still safe to say that half is extremely doable. And 65, it's not a favorite, but Beau Bartlett's still in there. Marcus Blaze is still in there. We're going to go through some of these matchups and discuss them. But yeah, the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club should have a very exciting weekend, to say the least here. So let's start to go through the brackets and some of the matchups, beginning with 65 kilos. We'll work our way up for the World Team Trials here. At 65 kilos, this is what the pre-seeds look like. Jesse Mendez takes the top spot. Nick Lee could have been the #1 pre-seed had he entered in, but he withdrew. Brock Hardy of Nebraska is at #2. Beau Bartlett moving up to the senior level is at a 3 seed. Aiden Valencia is a 4 seed. Real Woods is a 5 seed. Beau Bartlett is a 6 seed. Seth Gross moving up from 61 to 65 is a 7 seed. That is a dangerous 7 seed, if I do say so myself. Marcus Blaze moving up from 61 to 65 since, again, 61 is taken up by Vito Arujau and Jax Forrest. So redemption time for people like Gross and Blaze as they bump up to 65. Carter Young of Cowboy RTC is the #9 seed. So that means there's going to be a pigtail match. Blaze, I would expect to defeat Carter Young, but right out of the gate, you're going to have a 1 versus 8 seed matchup. And this could be a glimpse into the future for NCAA, for folk style here. Marcus Blaze against Jesse Mendez right out of the gate. Is there upset potential here? Yes, I think there is. I think there's legitimate upset potential. Am I going to say that, I guarantee Marcus Blaze to take the world by storm? But it is more likely than maybe someone would assume, because he has defeated Dayton Fix in the past. He's defeated Seth Gross in the past. Even though Gross got revenge at the U.S. Open, Blaze can put Jesse Mendez on upset alert, and that would, I think this bracket's insane. With the names that I all just listed, any of them outside of Carter Young, and really no disrespect, but the top 8, any of them would be a worthy representative in that Final X matchup. Yes, including Marcus Blaze and Beau Bassett at the senior level here. So this 1 through 8, Jesse Mendez is going to be the favorite, but Blaze could certainly upset him and reset things. I am also eager to see Beau Bassett versus Beau Bartlett. Beau versus Beau. The contrasting styles, because as we all know, Beau Bartlett is extremely patient. He doesn't like to take a lot of shot attempts. And it's the machine gun mindset with Beau Bassett. If you're familiar with Beau Bassett and his impact on wrestling thus far, now, I think he would probably call it a disappointment with his performance at U20s. He got knocked out by Lehigh wrestler Luke Stanich at the U20 US Open, but he's bumping up to the senior level here. And to see this on display, because Bassett still has one more year of high school eligibility. Beau Bartlett just finished his collegiate career. To see the contrast in styles, just how close Beau Bassett is, because he's done well at the U20 level. He's done well at the high school level, but him being argued as, I think Jax Forrest takes the top spot now in my mind in those class of 2026 rankings as the best pound for pound wrestler. Drayshawn Ross would be 2. I think Beau Bassett maybe drops to 3, but I think in other classes he would have an argument to be number 1. He's in that top 3. He's in that top 3. So we'll see. How close is he? How is he somebody that right away can be considered a 4-time NCAA champion, or is there still a gap there? I don't exactly have a read on this because it's such contrasting styles. My concern is, though, is Beau Bartlett going to be overwhelmed by the pace, but he knows what to expect. It's not like this is going to surprise him by any means. It's not going to surprise him. Beau Bartlett is a cerebral wrestler. Took second, took third twice. Okay, he never ultimately won that gold. I think it was a Jesse Mendez issue. I don't think it was necessarily a Beau Bartlett issue. Every time, and that's the rivalry that just keeps on giving to the sport of wrestling. Beau Bartlett versus Beau Bassett, that 3 versus 6 matchup right out of the gate. So if Beau Bartlett were to happen to advance, he could potentially get a rematch with Brock Hardy, and he has defeated Brock Hardy again in folk style. This is completely different. This is freestyle, but you do have something to use, precedence in these matchups here. That's why Bassett versus Bartlett is very intriguing, because there is no prior matchup. You don't know, and it's such a contrast in styles here. Hardy versus Bartlett, you somewhat know what you're going to get. If that happens, I got to imagine that Seth Gross is going to upset Brock Hardy in this case, and he's bumping up the weight class, which is why he's the 7th seed. So I mentioned Brock Hardy simply because he's the 2 seed, but don't be surprised. I got to imagine Seth Gross is the favorite here against Brock Hardy. So then Beau Bartlett versus Seth Gross, we know who the favorite would be. Never say never. I think that's still a fairly even matchup, but Gross would probably be the anticipated favorite. And then at that point, I would expect a Seth Gross versus Jesse Mendez matchup here at 65. That's my opinion. 65 is going to be anything could happen really in the 65 kilo weight class. It would not shock me if Marcus Blaze ends up being the next one to go back to, if he's the one to go to Final X again with who he's defeated in the past. Blaze doing what would be assumed as unthinkable here against Jesse Mendez. I'm just eager to see how this would, a glimpse into the future of what this would look like when he is, officially wrestling for Penn State, and could see Jesse Mendez potentially, right? If they're in the same weight classes. I don't know if Blaze is going to be 133, if that's going to be Ono. Blaze is going to be 41. Again, he could flip-flop with Ono there in that starting lineup. You couldn't go wrong either way, because remember, he was wrestling at 61 kilos there. So that's I don't even know where to begin with 65 and how to describe it and the potential that it has for all of the fireworks. Well, speaking of young and up-and-coming Penn State affiliated wrestlers, PJ Duke. PJ Duke at 70 kilos is one of the favorites. He's not the favorite, but it's not shocking here if Duke, who hasn't even wrestled a collegiate match, would get that next spot at Final X at 70 kilos. We're going to go over his bracket plus Levi Haines, Josh Barr, and of course, Kyle Dake and Carter Starocci. That is all coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live. And this year's matchups are already delivering. If you want into all of that, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats to these kinds of events, even for the biggest playoff games. And get this, prices on the app actually go down. They drop closer to tip-off. And with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, no surprise fees, Game Time is a total changer. Probably the best feature, in my opinion, is that panoramic seat view. It's helped me before. I've used Game Time, and to have that point of view before you've even gone to the arena. If you've never been to a venue before, that is extremely helpful. You'll also get the game time guarantee. And that means you know you're going to get the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row, same section on another platform, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. And the NFL schedule release just dropped, so you better believe that you can get tickets for great seats for as low as $100 thanks to exclusive discounts to NFL games. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That is code LOCKEDONCollege. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I still reserve some uncertainty here that PJ Duke isn't going to be an instant red shirt for Penn State. If he wants to come in and compete and start right away, all I'm saying is that Tyler Kasak should be put on notice. That's and it's because of how talented PJ Duke is. Right now, as somebody who hasn't wrestled at the collegiate level at all, but continues to just dominate the freestyle circuits and wins at U20, and now he's bumping up to the senior level here, and he's the 2 seed. Duke is the 2 seed, mind you. At what, 18, 19 years old? Now at 70 kilos, James Green's the number 1 seed. Ian Parker's the 3 seed. Will Lewan is a 4 seed. Bryce Andonian is a 5 seed. Ridge Lovett and Trell Taylor are 6 and 7. 2 former, well, 1 current Nebraska wrestler, a former because Lovett has graduated, but they're still part of the Nebraska RTC. Caleb Henson as an 8 seed in here. The Virginia Tech NCAA champion Brayton Lee rounds it out as the 9 seed. So PJ Duke would go up against a reigning NCAA champion, and I got to imagine, crazy enough, that Duke's the favorite. It's not overwhelming. If Antrell Taylor wins, yeah, the veteran experienced and somebody that's wrestled at the collegiate. But I would lean PJ Duke here. It's where the battle that's going to be tough is getting past James Green. And Ian Parker, too. But PJ Duke is not at a significant disadvantage. Well, it's that he hasn't wrestled as much as some of these other vets in the sport. So Duke being a 2 seed is extremely telling and could very well win at 70 kilos. And why I say that, yeah, the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club should expect to win at least half, and it's because of this weight class right here. But this one's quietly a loaded weight class too. I think 65 kilos is going to get all of the attention because of Jesse Mendez is there, and Nick Lee would make that much more interesting. He withdrew, but when you have Beau Bartlett in there and you have Beau Bartlett, Seth Gross, and Marcus Blaze, the present, the future of wrestling all in one class, you somewhat have that here, but maybe not as much recognized star power, if you will. But there's a lot of, I like Bryce Andonian a lot. If there's anybody that might surprise at some point, I do think Bryce Andonian, he's just dealt with injuries, but every time that I've seen Andonian, he's been nothing short of impressive there. And always, anytime that I see his name pop up, I'm always going to label him as a dark horse. I guess that's my personal bias there, but I just like the way that Bryce Andonian competes. At 74 kilos, no Penn State Nittany Lion Wrestling Club affiliated wrestlers, but waiting there, Mitchell Messenbrink, David Carr, Quincy Monday, Jarrett Jacques, Mikey Caliendo, Terrell Barraclaw, I guess if you want to count him since he was at Penn State and then did transfer to Utah Valley, Peyton Hall, and Joey Blaze, the older brother of Marcus Blaze. 79 kilos, Levi Haines, number 1 seed. Little fairly surprising to me personally, but I'm splitting hairs. I thought it would have been Dean Hamiti as the 1 seed and Haines as the 2 seed. Either way, you're getting that crash course there between Haines and Hamiti. And if you missed the World Team Trials preview that Jeff Byers and I did, links will be down in the description, but I encourage you to go check that out. He is very confident that Haines is going to make that adjustment. We saw what happened in folk style at the NCAA tournament. Haines took 3rd, but he could just not finish his shot attempts against Hamiti here. This is, for the most part, yes, because it's freestyle. I don't need to explain that, but this is going to be a lot more on your feet. So that's where my concern is, that Haines wasn't finishing his shot attempts. This wasn't a riding time issue or anything like that, or a defensive issue. This was Haines getting to his offense. So I'm glad that Jeff Byers has the confidence to say that Haines is going to make the adjustments and defeat Dean Hamiti. I still have, some concerns, some doubts. Am I going to be confident that Haines can win here and move on to Final X at 79 kilos? Yes. But Hamiti's not going to make it easy. And Haines still has to go up against the likes of a Carson Harchla, but no, not a lot of concern there. Simon Ruiz is the 3 seed here. Harchla is the 4 seed. Muhammad McBride is the 5 seed. Kennedy Mondays is 6 seed. And Ethan Riddle is a 7 seed. So Haines, go up against Carson Harchla, and then expect him to face a Dean Hamiti in a rematch of that NCAA championship. 86 kilos. 86 kilos. You have a little more volume here of Penn State Nittany Lion Wrestling Club affiliated wrestlers at the top. So at 65 kilos, Marcus Blaze and Beau Bartlett are not favorites, but the favorites here in this class, Kyle Dake, Carter Starocci, 1 and 3 seeds respectively. Chance Marsteller's a 2 seed, Parker Kakaisen's a 4 seed, Marcus Coleman's a 5 seed here. So Kyle Dake will wrestle Parker Kakaisen. No Starocci versus Kakaisen rematch from that NCAA championship. I, above all else, want to see Kyle Dake versus Carter Starocci. Now, Starocci still has to get through Marsteller. I'm not going to assume that that's a guarantee. Marsteller beat Starocci in the past. So it is not guaranteed that we will see Starocci versus Dake. However, it is likelier that Starocci does defeat and gets revenge against Marsteller this time around. But Starocci versus Dake, I just can't help but this is a glimpse into, this is a fly on the wall of what it's like for Starocci, for Dake, when they scrap, when they go up against each other in the wrestling room on a day-to-day basis. That's what this does for me. That's what I want to see, is just, how does this go when the pace is turned up? Because they're not going all the time when there's a berth at Final X on the line. But this does give you somewhat of a glimpse, and then you also have to kind of put those, iron sharpens iron. Hey, we're friendly, we're pals, and everything. That's thrown all out the window. Remember, Kyle Dake is bumping up 2 weight classes here. This is Carter Starocci's weight class that he's been around, right? He's been training at this, wrestling at this. Dake bumps up 2 weight classes here. I don't think it's necessarily an age issue. I think it does have to do a little bit with physique and adjustment and training. But now what Dake has going for him, and it's not like he's far off. The margin of error is razor thin. Dake, though, did go up against Zahid Valencia and at least had pointers. He had something to walk away with. Starocci's entering this tournament as a blank slate, if you will, not really wrestling as active, and he's been photographed doing some MMA with Bo Nickel and everything. I got to imagine that Kyle Dake, if you want to hold me to it, make a prediction here. I say Dake over Starocci, because now that Dake has had that adjustment time, if this was Dake bumping up, say he skips the US Open, okay, and then enters in here, I'd be inclined to say that, hey, maybe Starocci, because then it's a level playing field. But no, now that Dake's gone through that competition cycle, the veteran experience, he's just been doing this longer, and he's been doing it at such a high level. He's been to the Olympics how many times, right? Starocci hasn't been there yet. I think in due time, we will see a passing of the torch. Not this time around. Maybe Starocci makes me eat my words. All right, we got one more weight class to preview with Penn State Nittany Lion Wrestling Club affiliated wrestlers. We'll also talk about Aaron Brooks not being present and Greg Kerkvliet also not entered in here. It's just Josh Barr at these heavier weight classes. 92 kilos. Barr is the favorite. I'll tell you why on the other side of this break. This episode is brought to you by WayFair. The days are getting longer, the weather's warming up, and people are spending more time outside, which means it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony, WayFair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. WayFair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor, they've got it all, and at prices that will fit your budget. Now, delivery can be a hassle, but not with WayFair. Even for big stuff, big furniture, the delivery is free and hassle-free. So one of the best features that WayFair has to offer, WayFair makes it super easy to find pieces that will match your vibe without spending a fortune. Shop the huge selection of outdoor furniture online this summer and get outside with WayFair. Head over to wayfair.com right now. That is WayFair.com, wayfair.com. WayFair, every style, every home. Josh Barr is the favorite at 92 kilos, and this weight class isn't as loaded as some of the other ones, 65, 70, right? It's 5 competitors here, and Trent Hidley's waiting at Final X. Barr's the 1 seed. Aiden Sinclair is the 2 seed. Michael Machiavello is the 3 seed. Dustin Plott's the 4 seed, and Patrick Brophy is the 5 seed here. I'm eager to see Barr versus Plott in that semifinals matchup there. And then Aiden Sinclair, I continue to be more impressed with him each time he competes. What a busy weekend he had at the U.S. Open. To speak to Sinclair, who wrestled both at the U20 and the senior level and competed very well. Look, people are going to disagree with me. I feel like Sinclair got a little slighted. I thought McAnally jumped the whistle in that final second takedown there. It looked like he was going to go on to win. McAnally, hey, pulled it off. Magic, whatever was needed in that situation. But I can't help but think that Sinclair got a little bit cheated there. Anyway, Sinclair's out for revenge. My point is that don't underestimate Sinclair in all of this. Extremely talented wrestler. Missouri's going to be lucky to have him, and he is an NCAA title contender next season. That being said here, he is bumping up because I think he's naturally 184 pounds here. Barr's in an interesting situation. Most people know I've gone on the record here saying that, hey, anticipate a potential weight cut he could go back down to because naturally his weight class is at 184. But he's been training close, right? He wrestled at 197 for the full season. This is something he's had, I guess, more training, more exposure at this weight class than an Aiden Sinclair. Obviously, the veteran experience, just more time logged in the sport of wrestling is going to give you that. I'm disappointed that Jacob Cardenas withdrew. He was entered in, and then it looks like he was withdrawn as he's not a part of these pre-seeds. That would have been a nice 1-2 crash course situation. Again, not a guarantee because, again, Aiden Sinclair continues to impress me here. I think Barr defeats Plott, and then I'm eager to see Barr versus Sinclair. I like what Sinclair has offered so far. Just somebody that you just want to log matches. And I don't need to dish out any advice for Sinclair. He knows what he's doing. But when you log all those matches at a high level like that and perform the way that you do, Sinclair, I think, is well on his way to a very nice career collegiately and potentially on the freestyle. Again, he gave Trent Hidley a good amount of work, and like I said, I thought he defeated Max McAnally. I don't know. I thought he jumped the whistle. We can go watch it frame by frame together. Barr here is my choice to win 92 kilos. 97 kilos, these are the seeds, and I'm not going to address it. You're not going to get that from me. But at this time, as we have this conversation with everything that is surrounding Kyle Snyder, he is still intending to wrestle at Final X. Those are at least Pat Mineo put out his personal report saying that Snyder is going to wrestle at Final X. So this is 97 kilos in the seeds, that one of which could wrestle Kyle Snyder in due time in the middle of June. Hayden Zillmer actually dropping down from 125. That is worth noting that Zillmer is going to drop all the way down from heavyweight to 97 kilos for a chance here. Jonathan Aiello is the 2 seed. Justin Rademacher is the 3 seed. Rademacher showed a lot at the U20 tournament last week. He's bumping up to the senior level here. Eric Schultz is a 4 seed. Gavin Hoffman's a 5 seed. Christian Knopp is a 6 seed, and Ethan Laird is a 7 seed. And then at heavyweight at 125, Demetrius Thomas is a 1 seed. Trent Hilger is the 2 seed. 3 seed Jordan Wood. Christian Lance is a 4 seed, and Lucas Studdard is a 5 seed. To speak to Aaron Brooks is out of this tournament for personal reasons, from what I've gathered. Nothing directly, he's just taken some time off. I know I can say that he is still wrestling. He's still competing because there were rumors floating around that, this is injury related and that Brooks couldn't compete even if he wanted to. It sounds like this is a personal decision from what I have been able to gather. Same thing with Nick Lee. This one's a little more unknown. I don't have any clarity into that situation. Personal decision. He entered his name and then he has backed out in the process. So it just doesn't do the World Team Trials justice because Nick Lee would have been a favorite at 65. Aaron Brooks, whatever he decided, at 86, he just went to the Olympics at 86, probably would have wrestled at 92, which Josh Barr would have had to go up against Brooks. So another one of Penn State versus Penn State, Nittany Lion Wrestling Club versus Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. And then at heavyweight, no Greg Kerkvliet. For anybody that might not be aware, I feel like most Penn State wrestling fans are aware of this, though, that Kerkvliet had major leg surgery, injured during the week of practice leading up to the NCAA tournament, and is going to be out for quite some time, resting, rehabbing, but he will be back in due time. Don't get me wrong, but just not at this moment. So for anybody that's unaware, that is why Kerkvliet is not wrestling. For Nick Lee, for Aaron Brooks, personal decisions. For Greg Kerkvliet, an unfortunate medical situation. So there's the World Team Trials in a nutshell now that the pre-seeds are released. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out this episode, watching and enjoying this conversation. If you did, please leave a like on it, share it with friends and family. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Be a part of the conversation. Which matchups are the most intriguing to you? Want to know all about it in the comments. If you are new, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day.